Welcome to today's Snack and Learn webinar. And the topic today would be the first step in smart buildings is to get the basics right. I can see that people are still joining, but I think that we will start shortly or just as easy and see how it goes. So this is me. My name is Niels. I work in Denmark for WSP. I'm in the team of building management systems and commissioning. I've been working with building management systems for more than 20 years. And it's been systems like Trend Control Systems, Honeywell, and Schneider Electric. So I have quite a lot of experience, but in the team, I'm known as the young apprentice, as I only have 20 years of experience. This is the team. We are 13 BMS and commissioning specialists here in Denmark. Denmark's a small country. We're only 5 million people. So all of us are former contractors. Some have been facility managers for large, complicated estates. And we have grown this team in the last 16 months from 5 to 13 specialists. And all of them have more than 20 years of experience, and some even more than 30 years of experience. And between us, we have experience with all the major building management system brands that is available in the European market. So we specialized in indoor climate, energy optimization, performance testing, but also balancing of air and building management systems and water systems. And then we do a lot of design guides and commissioning. This is the team, and this is what we try to do. We are called the grumpy old men, not because all of us are old, but because down here we have a specific standard and we kind of go into details, and yeah, so that is our nickname. The reason for us talking about this today is that all over the world, many high-profile buildings is being built these years, and often, even though the construction project could be very good, it happens when you take the building over. The indoor climate is not working, the energy consumption is too high, and this is some of the experience that we will try to discuss today. So why is the smart building relevant at all? Sorry, by the way, I forgot to say that you're more than welcome to ask questions. You can write them in the chat window, and there's also a copy of this presentation in the handout box. And if you have any questions, I will try to answer them best I can in the end of the session. So back to the presentation. So why is the smart building relevant? Smart and modern building secure a healthy work environment, but the building is also key in the green transition. In Europe, 36% of the CO2 emissions comes from buildings. But when we look at the green transition, buildings will be future energy storage, because when we have a lot of wind energy, we need to store it somewhere, and here buildings will be vital. But also, when you have a smart building, it's part of your company's image. So what is a smart building? What is the dream of a smart building? It's something that can control your indoor climate. It's probably supports free seating. You can book the meeting rooms or your desks through Outlook. You can do wayfinding, so the building can tell you where your meeting room is. It knows how many people that are in the meeting room. It creates heat maps, so you can see whether there is a lot of people in the restaurant or in the cafe. It can help you to clean the building more efficient and lower your cost. It will also be able to tell you how much traffic there is on the highway, and of course how much energy that's being used in the building. But it could also including integrated payment systems and other things. And then of course excellent coffee. Coffee is a very vital part of smart buildings, and the building actually knows if you take milk in your coffee. So smart buildings support your image and help you attract some of the high-skilled employees that your company probably would like to hire, and that kind of gets more and more important as we go forward with the younger generations. But the fact is that most buildings are far from smart. the technical systems are not working and not working together. The heating and cooling could be on at the same time. And often the HVAC system is not balanced correctly. So even though how much equipment you put into them, they would never be able to control right. The temperature could be too high or too low, sorry, and the CO2 level is too high. And then the lighting is probably on 24/7, or when you pass a meeting room, the light in the meeting room goes on because it covers the walkway as well. And often the facility management team, they are not trained. So you buy a very expensive building, but you don't train the people that needs to operate the systems. But the coffee could be good, and actually the building is probably certified for its sustainability, and it could be kind of ironic, that one. So it could be that you say this is not a problem in your building, and could be you're right, but in our team we see this every day. This is a general problem in modern buildings, and actually in new buildings in Copenhagen, they often use more than 60% more energy than they should compared to the building regulations. So this is quite a lot. Who holds the key to change? That's the building owner. So could be you have great consultants and architects and whatever, but the only one who can set the standard in a building is the building owner. So all demands come from the building owner, and it's a fact that typically the quality and the functionality of a building only goes down from the building owner's initial demand. As the project moves through the different phases, the quality and the functionality goes down. So it's very important that you know your needs and you know your timing. And it sounds simple, but I can tell you it's not. So your needs, what are they? They could be very different from building owner to building owner, but it's probably a good idea to look long term, because building costs more to operate than they cost to build. The technical system needs special attention. In the old times, construction was the far biggest expense when you build a new building. Today, the technical systems is around half of the cost of building a new building, but it operates, it's very important for the operation. And when you look at the building management systems, it would normally cost between 1.5% to 3% of the total cost to build of the entire building, but it controls 85% of your energy consumption and also your indoor climate. So it's very, very important. And then you should focus on expertise. Just because you do business with a large company, it does not necessarily mean that the people you work with are experts. So you need to make sure that the people you talk to have the background to actually support you in this. And this doesn't matter whether it's a consultant, a contractor, or anyone else. It's always a good idea to check out the reference for the person that you do business with. Just showing you an example here. Copenhagen, that's the capital of Denmark. Copenhagen is part of the C40. This is many of the most ambitious cities in the world when it comes to green transition. The Danish government has a target to reduce the CO2 emissions by 70% in 2030. To my knowledge, this is one of the highest targets in the world. And Copenhagen has a target to be CO2 emission free in 2025. The municipality of Copenhagen has more than 3,500 buildings and operate more than 2.6 million square meters. So it's a large building owner. And through the last 8 years, the municipality of Copenhagen has developed a very extensive building owner standard or design guide. This is used in all new buildings and refurbishments. And it started as a BMS thing, but it moved on to take many of the other technical areas. So today it fills more than 1,000 pages and it's ready to use. So me as a consultant, I can take this specification and then I just need to add a few things to make sure that this is designed exactly to the specific building that I'm working in. But I do not need to write everything from the beginning, and both consultants and contractors that work for Copenhagen knows what's in the standard, and therefore the chance of them actually building the quality that Copenhagen expects is much higher. And it's important with the education. So here we have trained more than 75 people, both in the design and in the operation, on how to use the design guide. So what we talk about today is about knowing your timing. There are some stages in a build that is more important than others. So before, and this is very, very early, this is where you need to know your ambition and demands. So do you need a smart building or just a building? Is it a building that you're gonna own for short term or long term? Should this building fit your current needs or be so flexible that you can change the building layout over the years to come? You need to understand, if you want to anyway, have a smart building, what is the possibilities, what is relevant for you? And then you need to define how you will operate your building. Is this something that you'll do yourself? Do you want to employ facility managers, or do you want to hire a facility management company to operate the building? This is something you need to know, because it's a different matter to create systems that is operated either by yourself or someone else. So you need to know your ambitions, and you need to write it down. It's important, because this is something you're going to need again and again. Also, before the building process, you need to describe your demands. This could be in a design guide. It doesn't have to be, but it's a very good tool. You need to be very specific. You shouldn't leave nothing to be interpreted by the contractor. This needs to be so specific that it's very, very clear what it is you need. Also, because if you don't get it, you need to make this document a legal document in a future conflict. You need to be specific on your expectations on zone level. Do you need to control every zone for itself? Do you need to have meeting rooms that controls the lights? Do you need to have other equipment that can be controlled by the building management systems? You need to be very specific of what is your minimum requirements. It shouldn't be fluffy. It needs to be very specific. Also, something about factory fitted controls. So do you accept air handling units with building controls? I would recommend not, but someone does. It depends on their needs. And then you need to be able to identify risk areas. This is blinds, air handling units with standalone controls, metering, etc. These are some of the places that, by experience, we know often goes wrong. Then you should always prioritize commissioning, inspection, and testing during the construction phase. This is something that is often neglected. It seems that, okay, I hire a total contractor, he would do this for me. He's the best at this, I don't need to check this on the way, but I can tell you, you do. And then you need a very specific time schedules. Time schedules is one of the reasons why systems are never commissioned correctly, because everything happens in the final third of the building process. And this is also where everyone is too late, and the pressure of the building owner who wants to move into the building is very, very high. So there will be cut a lot of corners, especially if this is not planned correctly from the beginning. During the process, many things would happen automatically, but there are a few things that you need to check on the way. That's function descriptions and cross-discipline coordination. So the thing the ventilation contractor is installing, is that the same that the BMS contractor is actually controlling? There can be a lot of changes during a project, and you need to be able to stay on top of this. The time schedule changes all the time, and you need to make sure that you know what's going on here. But also something about labeling of panels, components, and cables and stuff. This is important, as if it's not done in the beginning of the project or when you do the project, you will never get around to it, and it's very difficult to figure out afterwards. Then you come into the final phase. I've written after here, but it's actually in the final stages of the build. Is the system actually ready to be tested? Are there power on the BMS panels, and are they checked? Is the air balanced, the water balanced, and is all system ready to operate? You might think that this is simple, but it's not. It often happens that you try to commission a system that is not ready, and you cannot control an air handling unit correctly if the air balance is not right. And then the documentation. So is the function description checked? And is the system there, the program that's in the controller, actually the one that's written in the function description? Is the system available? Can it control actually? You will be able to see that using trend logs. And then smoke and fire dampers. Are they mapped on the drawings? Sometimes it's not the case, and it can be very, very difficult to identify where smoke and fire dampers are because they're hidden over the ceilings or behind walls. So when all these things have been done and everyone is happy, you need to do a 42-day test. Why it's 42 days, I don't know, but it is. It could probably be 35 or 50. But often this would be after the building is occupied. And it's not really a problem because it's often when people move into the building, you find all the challenges that real life conditions bring to a building. So during the test, all alarms and trend logs should be kept and inspected. And then during this phase, it's also often here that the facility management teams are trained. I brought with me this example, and this is a trend log for a building where you can see the pressure sensor in the middle here suddenly goes here. It suddenly goes down during a number of days. Each of them is a day. You can see 5 days and 5 days. And when this pressure sensor goes down, the air handling units drive up the speed of the fans, and that actually increases your energy usage here by 50%. And the reason for that is that the sensor is broken. But the way you find out of this, you cannot find out when you look at the system because it sounds the same. You need a tool like the trend logs here to investigate this. And this is actually one of the most important parts of a building management system and something that needs to be part of the commissioning process. So what should we remember for this? I know it's a lot of words in a very short time, but please remember that you should start early, and it's probably earlier than you think. A design guide could be a very good tool for your organization, especially if you build more than one building. You need to be sure to get support both in the facility management team, the design team, and in the management organization if you want a very extensive design guide. Because if you create a design guide and then at the first build you say, yeah, that's true, but no, we're not going to use this, then you wasted a lot of time and money. You need to be very specific, leave nothing to be interpreted by the contractor or anyone else for that matter. You need to prioritize a detailed time schedule. And in that, it could be a very good idea if you have several penalties. So if the stage is not met at a certain point, you can give the contractor penalties. And these points should be quite early in the build. So if the design document's not ready, then you need to have a penalty. If the system's not ready to be tested, you need a penalty. And then, of course, in the final handover. So you should specify a long test period before you actually pay the final sum. And you should don't settle. Ask for specialists and ask for the demands of the system that you actually need. So in short, know what you want and make sure that you got what you asked for. It sounds simple, but it's not. And the final 2 sessions here is actually one of the things that you should take away. You shouldn't settle for anything else than actually what you asked for in the beginning. Sorry, this is that was the final slide. And it could be that someone has any questions, then I will be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you, Niels, for your presentation. So just to remind you, you can download the PDF version of this presentation from the handout box on the dashboard, and also you can log your questions in the question box on the GoToWebinar platform. I will start with the first question. Why should I, as a building owner, be involved in all these details? Why should a consultant that I hired do that?
I think that it's important that, of course, you hire a great consultant to help you. But if you don't get involved in these stages, the consultant, he needs your support to make sure that these type of decisions are met. Otherwise, it would often be that the quality and the specification is too low to sell your requests. So I think it's important for a building owner to actually prioritize some of these more detailed things in the beginning of the project. When these things have been set, the level is kind of set, then you can leave everything to your consultant, but please follow up on occasions, but it's in the beginning that's important for you participate.
Thank you. How can I achieve 100% indoor air quality if I'm using a centralized HVAC system to supply air to various spaces?
That's a very good question. So you can, but you need a system with VAV, so variable air volume, and probably you need temperature and CO2 sensors also all over the building. And there, by pressure systems, you can move the air around to where it's most important, if there, where it's needed. It will seldom be 100% everywhere, but if your system is balanced correctly, you should be able to achieve a very high level of indoor climate using pressure systems with variable air volume damper actuators.
Thank you. The next question relates to a case study that you mentioned in Copenhagen. You mentioned the 1,000-page design guide. That sounds very excessive. Why does it need to be so large, the design guide?
It absolutely doesn't. For Copenhagen, it's been a valuable tool, and it's been a decision to make it built on a kind of a de facto standard. This is in Denmark, and that makes sense for them. And to be honest, as the building portfolio is that large, it works very well. But we have other building owners that have 50 pages or 90 pages or 10 pages. It doesn't really matter. The idea is that you make kind of the initial thoughts and write it down, and then the design guide is kind of your guiding tool. And then for some it needs to be extensive, and for others it could be more simple. It's up to you and your organization what's important. We have another case story where we helped an housing organization build a design guide, and there it was the facility managers for all the housing associations, housing addresses that came up with all their problems that they have on a daily basis. And there we made another type of design guide that is more, it's around 90 pages, but it's very specific towards the facility manager's needs. I think that has been a very successful tool as well.
Thank you. Can you justify the cost of the design guide, taking into consideration specific design project for my new building?
Yeah, I think I can. I think that first of all, you are more likely to get what you asked for. Second, many of the decision thoughts that you need is in the design guide. So I, as a consultant, don't need as much time trying to understand what you need. So I will spend less time doing the specification, and we will have less conflicts in the end of the project because it's been very specific on what is our expectations, what is it that we need, what is our minimum requirements. So we don't have all these conflicts in the end, and often you will have a system that controls much better, and you don't spend a lot of time trying to find errors. And I think that if you look at the overall financial soundness of this, I think that the design guide is one of the best things you could actually do.
Fantastic, thank you. So it looks like we're at the end of our webinar session. We don't have additional questions, so please feel free to follow up directly with Niels via the contact details shown on the screen. And I would like to thank all attendees for joining today. Thank you for your time. It's actually, this webinar concludes our 2021 Snack and Learn webinar series with over 70 webinars that we had this year. So thank you very much for participating in those. I much appreciated. And thank you again for your time. Thank you, Niels.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you.